Houston High School Huddle. It's the last show of the year. My main man, Matt Stepp, has been with me 17, 18 weeks. Always there by my side, giving us that information. Dave Campbell's Texas High School football. We know where his seat's going to be for 4 days now. He's brought his tent. He's going to be camping out there in the parking lot. He's not going nowhere. He'll be there Wednesday through Friday. I'm the wizard. I'm going to not even mess around over there Wednesday, so I'll let you handle that stuff on your own. But I'll be there Thursday through Saturday.
Okay.
I'll handle with things with you.
We'll
I got a chance. We don't live. We live close, but not that close. But we got to hang out a little bit this weekend over in at Baylor. Saturday night, we got to see a couple of our Houston area teams. I was just going to talk about those games quickly because we were there and had our eyes on it. Boy, Angleton played hard one quarter. They got things going. They played hard the whole game, but one quarter is when they actually got some things going, but it just wasn't enough, man. It's one of those deals where they came back and then you finally get tired, everybody's excited, and then it goes away right just like that.
Yeah, the first three quarters, their offense was just non-existent, and credit to Smithson Valley, they did a great job. Angleton got a big break, that fumble return for a touchdown, and kind of turned momentum around, but they had to work so hard, I think, just to get it to 14-14 that you're right. As soon as they tied it up, Smithson Valley goes right back down and wins the game at the end of the game there on a touchdown. And Angleton just couldn't generate anything offensively. Disappointing. I thought they had a state championship level defense, but just the offense just never – in the last 2 weeks, they slipped past LaPorte a little bit last week, 2 weeks ago, but even then their offense wasn't great. And last week they struggled. And so it was disappointing. Angleton had a great crowd there at Baylor, a big crowd. A lot of folks from Brazoria County showed up. It's just wasn't enough, unfortunately, for them. And so, credit to Smithson Valley.
Generating off, they could barely generate first downs for the first three quarters.
I think they had 2 first downs in the first half.
It was a tough situation.
Yeah.
And then the nightcap was Summer Creek, and Summer Creek took on Austin Vandergriff, and boy, they put the stats on them in the first half. I believe we were sitting there talking about how Blake Thomas had just about 300 yards total offense in the first half, but still, it was a close game. But you never really thought the Vipers were going to do it, and then I had to head on back. I couldn't stay for the second half. You did. What? How are you feeling about the Bulldogs? How disappointed are you, especially in the second half there?
I think if you're Kenny Harrison and Summer Creek, you're sick to your stomach right now. I think they let an opportunity. I'm going to be frank with you here. Yeah. I think they had an opportunity to win a state championship slip pass because DeSoto got beat. The top of the bracket really opened up. And I think Summer Creek would have been a favorite over now South Lake Carroll, but they would have been a favorite over South Lake Carroll or Longview. And so I think considering they were leading Vandergrift 14-0 early, we kind of thought they were going to run away with it. I think if you're Summer Creek, you're really kicking yourselves right now. I think an opportunity, these don't come around very often, and especially in a 4-year high school career, these kids. This is, now these seniors leave and they I think they lost a real opportunity to win a state championship. There's no two ways about it. I think if you asked anyone at Summer Creek, they'd tell you they're incredibly disappointed with how things turned out. And the key was the special teams play. Got Vandergrift back in the game. It's 14-0. You can see the body language of Vandergrift starting to be like, I don't know if we can do this. These guys are really, really good. And their sophomore kick returner went 93 yards and housed it, made it 14-7, and their sidelines were lifted up and they got life, and it was a dogfight the rest of the way. And Vandergrift made a play late with an interception. When Summer Creek was driving to possibly win the game, they got an interception, and that was ball game. They never gave the ball up.
Yeah, and we talked about it ever since the playoffs. You're not going to have a chance to see a bracket open up the way it did for Summer Creek, and they were rolling the whole season with that chip on their shoulder by giving up 70 points in the year before. The bracket opens wide open. Everything's there for them. But South Lake Carroll, a beat-up young team, is waiting there with your experienced team coming in, and it just didn't happen. And then on the
defense, as good as their defense had been all year, they just couldn't get a stop. Just couldn't get a stop late.
Talk a little bit about what you saw with Northshore, because again, they just got beat from beginning to end. They just didn't make it happen.
Yeah, this game, I think the story of this game was Northshore's offensive line really got dominated by Westlake's defensive line. Westlake had a great game plan coming in. They contained. They always give Northshore trouble, but they gave them more than trouble Saturday. They dominated them. And I think the big key was Westlake's defensive line dominating Northshore. I do think Northshore got in a little bit of a panic mode, down 21-3. They score before halftime, and we're sitting there at Baylor, and I'm thinking, okay, they score, it's 21-10. They get the ball to start the third quarter. They go down and score here, it's a new ball game. And I think Northshore was thinking that too. I think in the locker room they were like, we got to take this opening kickoff and score. Well, what happens is they get that 4th and short, and they're on their own 18.
Yeah.
And I think they were so dead set on scoring that they kind of put their defense in a really bad spot because Westlake made a play, got to stop. Now Westlake's got a 20-yard field to work with. They score quick, and all of a sudden it's 28-10, and basically the game's over at that point.
That's right.
So it was disappointing. Great senior class for Northshore, loaded with talent. I thought this was the year that they would get past Duncanville. And I think when Northshore was playing their best football, they were the best team in the state of Texas. But they would have these games where they would kind of look shaky. The Crowley game, the first Atascocita game, and then last week. And it finally came back and bit them.
Bit them good, too. We'll talk about the other teams that play because they're still in the bracket and they're still playing. So we'll chat about them later on. But let's start off. Let's just go right through the championship weekend. We'll start with 6A Division I. We're going into last week, we probably thought it was going to be Duncanville Northshore again, but it's not. Neither one of them's in it. North Crowley and Austin Westlake. I'd love to hear your prediction on this one or your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I think this game comes down. The money matchup here is North Crowley's offense, which is star-studded. Chris Jimerson, the quarterback, committed to North Texas. They got Cornelius Warren, UNLV commit, Daniel Bray, Utah commit at running back. Quentin Gibson, the Colorado commit at wide receiver. They got a great offensive line. Henry Fanuku, the Missouri signee. John Turntine III, a 5-star junior. Ian Carter, another Division I guy. Loaded offense. Going against the Westlake defense led by linebacker Elliott Shaper, who, in my opinion, is the best defensive player in Texas high school football, the Duke commit. He's unbelievable. He's a star. This is the money matchup here. And both teams coming off emotional wins last week. Both teams... Who's going to be able to reload the gun, so to speak, and get jacked up now to play a state championship game because they had such emotional wins last week. The thing about the Texas high school football playoffs, especially in 6A, is you can't let you got to get back up. You got to get recharged and ready to go because you're playing an elite ball club. So fascinating matchup here to close out the season on Saturday night. I like North Crowley. I think their offense and their offensive line particularly is better equipped to handle that Westlake defense. Yeah,
and they're both on missions that they're not – just getting here wasn't good enough. North Crowley, they haven't been here since 2003. Again, you talked about how they loaded their team up to get going here. Austin Westlake's done the same. I don't think we're going to have a situation where our season ends on a 60-point blowout. I think our season's going to end on a challenging game. Yeah, we're not going to leave early.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get a 74-10 game or whatever we got last year.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the Division II game too. You look at these names and you see Southlake and Vandergrift, and you probably think, Southlake's going to roll. But you got to know this team is banged up and it's super super young, and I think just interviewing Riley Dodds at the end of their game against Longview, he's about as shocked as he can be to be here, but he's ready to get one.
Yeah, they got to the championship game in 2020 and lost to Westlake. Vandergriff got to the championship game in 2022, lost to DeSoto. Carroll's obviously battled through injuries. They've reinvented themselves on the fly. Their two Division I running backs got hurt, and they've kind of turned into more of a passing team led by Angelo Renda, their quarterback. Their defense last week was the story. They held Boosie Washington and that Longview rushing attack in check. The tight end, defensive end, Jack Van Dorser, the Tennessee commit, was great leading that Southlake Carroll defense, and they did a fantastic job containing Longview's rushing attack. They're going to have a tough challenge. Vandergrift's got a good offense. We saw them last week. They execute well. They got a bruiser at running back in Fournier. They've got some good big physical receivers on the outside, and they got the fast guy in Gavin Coaster. A good offensive line. Their defensive line is solid, led by Deshaun Morgan, the Arizona State commit. Good ball club in Vandergrift. So this is a really tight game. I'm going to go with Southlake here. I think they're more battle tested. I think they're going to get it done. But this is going to be another close game. I think both 6A games are going to be possibly one-score football games.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask for there too. I think the difference a difference here with Southlake is with Christian Glenn, the fact that he has to sub in for those two running backs, but the fact that he's had a couple games here to get his footing. He's not getting thrown in the championship game. He's made the little playoff run where he's been the main guy, and
he had 127 yards last week. He had a good game against Longview. Yeah,
this is not going to be bright lights here because he's already had, and they weren't blowing teams out either in this run where they needed him to get quality yards to get the wins, and so he's not going to be shocked in that deal. I'll probably go with Southlake too. Division I looked over there. I saw you sitting next to Randy Allen scouting out this game. You hear anything he might have said? What he saw in Smithson Valley to scare him a little bit, or he ain't giving up the juice to you like that?
He didn't give up the juice to me. He'd been around too long. This is I was talking to Greg Tepper about this. This is the matchup, the most combined win of two head coaches in any state championship matchup ever.
Oh wow!
Between Randy Allen and Larry Hill, there's 798 wins between these two guys. Ooh. Unbelievable. The difference here. Randy Allen in state title games has 4 state titles with Highland Park. He's 4-2 in state championship games at Highland Park. Larry Hill, the Smithson Valley head coach, is 0-4. So can Smithson Valley get Larry Hill a state championship trophy? That's the big question here. Stylistically, these two teams are very, very similar. They're mirror images. Even in the uniforms, they both kind of have plain uniforms. They're not real flashy. They're very old school in how they approach things. They're both very good on defense. The two quarterbacks are very good, but they're good in different ways. For Smithson Valley, you got Cade Spradling, their quarterback, who doubles as their best defensive back as well. And we're not talking about a guy who comes in and plays on third downs, or he's got 100 tackles, and he's the starting quarterback at a 5A Division I school.
That's crazy.
When he gets rest on offense. So he's a unique player. And then you got Buck Randall, the quarterback at Highland Park, who's the first sophomore to start at Highland Park since a guy by the name of Matthew Stafford. Yeah. So a lot of pedigree here. I think this is going to be a really interesting, low-scoring game. Smithson Valley can't play from behind. They got the similar kind of game to what they had against Angleton. That's like Larry Hill's favorite kind of football right there. If they can win 21-14, they would be just very happy to do that. So I think Highland Park wants to up the tempo a little bit, up the pace. I like Highland Park. I don't pick against them at AT&T Stadium very often, and I don't think they're going to lose here. So give me the Scotties.
Yeah, I'll get them in that 11 a.m. game too. By the way, Smithson Valley very well could have been up 28-0 at the half. They had a couple tough breaks there. Interception just stolen away from a guy that had his arm. So they could have put that game to bed early. They didn't.
Yeah,
and they
showed their field goals. Yeah,
they showed their grit there at the end that came out and pulled that one off. We're going to talk a little bit more about the 5A Division II game because we got one of our squads in there in Richmond Randle. I got to see him Friday night. And I brought this up to you. Maybe you want to shine a little light on it. The first thing I noticed is that Landon Williams-Callis barely got any touches. I think it was somewhere between 10 to 12 for a guy that's over 2,000 yards. Is there a story behind that, or your thoughts on that?
I don't know if he's banged up or not. I mean, I watched him in the Iowa Colony game, and he did look like he was stretching a little bit. Maybe he had something bothering him. But I think the concern here, first off, Richmond Randle, congrats to them. They're carrying the banner for all of Houston this week because it was a rough week for Houston.
It was very rough
last week, especially Saturday. It was tough. So they're basically carrying the banner in the big schools for the entire city here. Williams-Callis, I think, is this matchup here is going to come down to I think Richmond Randle's defensive line their defense is good enough to keep them in the football game. Yeah. They're among the best defenses in Texas. They haven't allowed more than 14 points in a game all year. It's going to be a great matchup with their defensive front against the big South Oak Cliff offensive line and running game with Debo Williams and Mikael Trotter, and then Carter Kopecki at quarterback. That's a great matchup there.
But when
the
you flip
big edge that South Oak Cliff has is when their defensive line goes against the Randle offensive line. I've not been super impressed with Randle's offensive line the past couple of weeks, which is part of the reason why Landon Williams-Callis hasn't been able to get going, is because the offensive line. Landon Williams-Callis is not a big back. He's a smaller back. He needs a crease to get going, and he hasn't had creases. So that's kind of the matchup. South Oak Cliff's defensive line with Kamorian Morgan, the Baylor commit. They got a D-tackle, a junior D-tackle, Corday Houston, who is unbelievable. Yeah. South Oak Cliff's defense is elite. I don't think Richmond Randle can drive the football on Sox defense. I think they're going to have to break big plays, and I just don't know if they can. I think what's going to happen in this game, my prediction is it's going to be very close. Randall's defense is going to keep them in it, but they're just going to be on the field too long. I think eventually South Oak Cliff kind of wears them down. And that's kind of my prediction. I think South Oak Cliff wins 28-10, 28-14 kind of football game where in the second half they kind of start to break a couple of big runs and Randall just can't keep up. So that's
your prediction.
Unfortunately for Houston, that's my prediction here. We'll see how it goes. I mean, hopefully,
and they're young, man. It's the third year of existence.
Yeah, it's a young program, so hopefully
coming in bright lights and all
South Oak Cliff's going to have a huge crowd. The game's in their backyard. They're going to have a huge crowd. So hopefully Lamar Consolidated, Fort Bend County shows up for these guys because they're the only team left in the city. So hopefully the folks of Houston that we're planning on coming up maybe still come up and watch Randall play because they're going to need all the support they can get. I think they're kind of walking into a hornet's nest in a tough environment here. Yeah,
exactly. And it's not just going to be South Oak Cliff. The whole city of Dallas is going to be on. They want revenge for what happened last year. And Golden Bears have been on a revenge tour throughout this whole playoffs.
It's their fourth straight state.
To get back there.
It's an incredible story if you really look at South Oak Cliff. I think if you'd have asked me in 2020, 2019, would an inner city school in Texas ever win a state championship again, I'd have told you no. And South Oak Cliff is playing in their fourth consecutive state championship with a chance to win 3 out of 4. Pretty remarkable story for sure.
Absolutely. Now, Richmond Randle did try a bunch of different trick-type plays that maybe they're getting ready for what they're about to face here. A lot of fake reverses, passes, flipbacks, changing the direction of where they're going. Maybe that's they can use some of those. They're going to try 2 or 3 of those.
And you can do that when you have a guy like Keelan Sweeney who can throw it
on a pitch.
I bet they've got passes off of that, and they've got stuff to work on. So they'll have some tricks up their sleeve. But I just don't know if you can beat South Oak Cliff more than once with a little bit of smoke and mirrors.
You have to pick your spots on those. If you do them, you got to really buy into when you're going to do it.
And you better capitalize on it. You better execute it.
Exactly. All right, well, it's going to be fun seeing up there. In the afternoon, you got Salina against Kilgore, which looks like a very entertaining game. I've been riding with 3 teams this year, Richmond Randle, Columbus, and Salina. Salina I was riding with, and they were just blowing everybody out, but they finally showed that they could beat a team in a close situation, which gives me – I didn't have the pause I had before. It actually gives me even more motivation for Salina this year, knowing that they can get in a match like that and still come out on top. But Kilgore's coming over from East Texas. This looks like a dogfight here.
Yeah, it's going to be a great football game. Yes, I was at the Salina game last week. They got pushed. Their junior quarterback, Bo Bentley, is unbelievable. If you haven't watched this kid play, he's special. He's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country in the class of 2026. Already got a bunch of Division I offers. They've got that traditional big, physical Salina offensive line, 2 good running backs. They've got playmakers. Kilgore, the matchup here is Kilgore's front 7 or Kilgore's defense, because they've got an elite secondary as well. Kilgore's defense against this Salina offense is going to be good-on-good type action here. I'm really excited to see it. Kilgore got past Chapel Hill 2 weeks ago, 30-6, and then blew out Lavernia last week over there at Randall Reed Stadium. Kason Brooks, their quarterback's been outstanding in the playoffs. They've got the Michigan commit in Jaden Sanders, who plays on both sides of the ball. They're going to be fast. They're going to be physical. They're going to do what East Texas teams usually do. The concern for Kilgore here is they haven't been able – traditionally, they run the football very well. They struggled last week running the football. They only had 54 yards rushing. They're going to have some balance against this aggressive Salina defense. Salina plays an aggressive style of defense. They put a lot of guys in the box. And if you can get past that first level, you can probably break it. But sometimes getting past that first level is easier said than done. So, however, I think Kilgore's defense is the difference here. I've been riding with Kilgore all year. They were my preseason pick to win the state championship, so I'm not going against them now. I'm taking Kilgore.
All right. That's our first battle. By the way, if you don't mind, I'm going to see if I can text AT&T, see if we can get that curtain down for this 3 o'clock game. Get the curtain down there. You think Jerry will bite on that?
Yeah,
got a couple. We got some 3 o'clock games. I don't know what the weather's going to be like.
It's supposed to be kind of cloudy and cold, I think.
Okay, well maybe we'll be all right then.
Yeah.
I ain't worried about the cold because I'll be nice and warm. But I need that
from a number one Commanders fan.
There you go. Yeah, can you help us out?
That email right away.
Can we pull that down, please? No? All right. Thanks for the sun drops. Well, we know a bunch about Carthage. I heard the next interesting stat about Coach Surratt is he's got to go winless for like the next 20 years in order to have his record be 500. That's how well he's done over there at Carthage. And they're back in another state title against the La Vega team. And I'm not expecting as an entertaining game as we talked about with Salina and Kilgore in this one, but what do you think about it?
Well, La Vega and Carthage have had some battles in the past, and La Vega's gotten the better of Carthage a couple of times here. You got an offensive wizard in Scott Surratt at Carthage, who's 9-0 in state championship games, against Don Hyde, who's a defensive wizard. Don Hyde and his defense have done a good job in the past against Carthage. This Waco La Vega team is a little more offensive heavy. They got a lot of playmakers. Bryson Rowland, their running back. Wide receiver Jabari Thornton is a big-time player. Their sophomore quarterback is outstanding at Courtney Parr. This is a fast La Vega ball club that has a ton of team speed. They're just going up against a team that's complete in Carthage. Carthage doesn't have any weaknesses. They got Division I guys all over the field. They are an East Texas juggernaut. They've been on this stage before, and when Scott Surratt gets to a state championship game, they just don't lose. No. And they got 2 great running backs, Benny Smith and KJ Edwards. Jet Surratt at quarterback is Coach Scott Surratt's son. Got 49 touchdown passes this year. They've got elite guys on defense, DeQuivis Beck, Clayton Ingram at linebacker. This is just a complete team in Carthage, and I think the Bulldogs take care of La Vega. And it will be a close and entertaining game, but I like Carthage here.
Like Carthage? Yeah, I was going to take Carthage by about 10-14, so that's the kickoff game there on Thursday, 11 o'clock. So, Friday. Yeah, Thursday night is the big. This is the one I'm looking forward through the whole week. To be honest with you, I'm looking forward to so much. I'm handing the camera over to somebody else so I can just sit there and watch this one. Columbus Malakoff. Malakoff, obviously the defending champs. Columbus in their first title game, and they're just putting up ridiculous offensive numbers. I think eight games they've had 7 touchdowns or more. It's just crazy what they're doing offensively. They got through some injuries and still got here. Talk to me about this. We're claiming this. Houston's claiming Columbus. So if you're coming up to see Randle, come up the night early and see Columbus too. And tell me what you think about this one.
I said this on Twitter today, Ward. If you went up to me and put a gun to my head and said, Matt Stepp, you cannot go to all 12 state championship games. You can only go to one. Which one are you going to? It's this.
This is it.
Columbus
is the one,
and Malakoff. I think this is a fantastic matchup. You got Malakoff, 31-game winning streak, led by that guy at quarterback, Mike Jones. They've got an unbelievable team. Parker Poteet at linebacker, Jerryon Hall, Jason Tennyson at running back. Very, very good ball club. They showed championship pedigree last week. They were down by 12 in the third quarter to Paradise. Came back and won by 8. Outscored Paradise 20-0 in the fourth quarter to win that football game. They've got the championship DNA. They've been here before. They've done it. Mike Jones was the MVP last year. He is the leader of this football team. Going up against, in my opinion, has been the most dominant 3A Division I team in the state of Texas this year in the Columbus Cardinals. As Columbus has been a good football team for a long time. They've won a lot of football games. This is their first ever state championship appearance. I think there's going to be a ton of people at this game. Columbus, I know they're very excited. Adam Schobel, a TCU commit. Grayson Rigdon, the Wyoming commit. Braylon Fisher at receiver, the sophomore stud. John Schobel, a tight end linebacker, also a TCU commit. This is a tremendous ball club. Adam Schobel by himself is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, we were talking to Baylor, and you're thinking pound for pound, he may be the best player in the state this year.
He might be. He's so good. He's been unbelievable this year. He makes some throws that just make your jaw drop. He makes NFL type throws. He's unbelievable. I think he's got 53 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions this year, and a 75% completion. He's completed 75% of his passes. And probably most of those 25% are drops. He's just been on another level. They took Aunt Edna and whooped her behind real good last week. That game was 21-0 5 minutes in, and I looked at. I was with where was I at Thursday? I was in Mineral Wells Thursday night, and I was sitting next to Carl Padilla of the Padilla Poll, based out of San Antonio. And I looked at Carl and I said, "This game's over. Like it's 21-0. It's over." And it was 42-6 at halftime, and Columbus emptied the bench and called the dogs off. Columbus has dealt with a lot this year. They dealt with a lot of injuries. They had a player pass away. You'll see, they'll bring out the number 62 jersey for the young man who passed away earlier in the year. They're playing for something bigger than themselves. They're playing for a whole community, and I think Columbus gets it done. I think Schobel, they get that elusive state title, and Columbus knocks off and ends the state's longest winning streak there at Malakoff. Should be a fantastic football game. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, that's like you said a couple of games ago. That I've been riding with Columbus all year, so I ain't backing down now. I'll definitely be rooting on the Cardinals, and like they got pedigree up there. You talked about it, Adam Schobel looks like an NFL type throws, and that's maybe because his dad and uncle were former NFL guys.
He's got those bloodlines, yeah.
Exactly. And last year I saw Schobel in the girls' state finals when they went to the girls' state tournament. So there's Schobels all over the place, and they're implanted there in Columbus, and they're just doing things.
Now, me and you we didn't take a field trip to Columbus and go eat at Schobel's restaurant.
Yeah, we do.
Schobel's restaurant's really good.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
You been there?
Yeah, it's like think of like a place like Golden Corral, but with home cooking.
Okay.
Like there's a lady in the kitchen cooking all that stuff. It's
nice. Great. Nice. All right. Well, now you got me hungry here at 7:30 at night.
Let's go to Columbus.
Right.
Let's go.
Let's go to Columbus and grab a bite. Gunter and Woodville. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a lot about Woodville. You do, obviously. I know Gunter's a little banged up with their best player. Peacock is out, but they still managed to come back. And you saw that game against Wall and hold them off. Tell me about Woodville and who you think is going to pull this one out.
Yeah, Woodville. They've been playing football for 100 years, and this was the first time they went to the third round of the playoffs, fourth round, fifth round of the state championship. Their first state championship game.
Everything's new.
Everything's new for them. But they're fun. Their head coach, Ty Robinson's a blast. He's got no filter. He'll just say whatever's on his mind. He'll say it. He's great. Their quarterback, sophomore Luke Babin's got a great story. His mom is from Brazil. She was a college athlete at LSU, so he's got great bloodlines. I think she was an elite volleyball player on the Brazilian national team and played college volleyball at LSU. So he's got great bloodlines. They've got, I believe it's Tavion Hunter, who's a running back, defensive end, elite athlete at running back. They got a kid, every year at state, there's always like this kid who becomes a folk hero, and it's usually a big kid, right? Hamlin had the big kid, number 99. Yeah. They put it fullback and would throw to some. Then Shiner had Doug Brooks, the big fullback D tackle. Well, Woodville's got a guy in Dustin Barlow who's going to become a folk hero. I think he's like a fire hydrant. He's like 5'8", 240. And he scored the winning touchdown last week on a pass. He's athletic. He's low to the ground and can run you over. He's fun to watch. This is a fun Woodville team. I think they're going to play loose. I think they're not going to have a care in the world. This is all gravy for them, and I think they're going to come out with a little bit of just kind of let it rip kind of mentality. Gunter is been there, done that, looking for a three-peat. They got pushed to the brink last week, but showed that championship. They were down 32-17 in the fourth quarter, and they had a 3rd and goal in the 18. And quarterback Preston Tarpley made a play to Mitchell Gage, scored a touchdown on 3rd and goal from the 18 to kind of turn the game around. And Gunter scored 25 straight to win the game, 42-32. Gunter's your favorite here, but teams that profile like Woodville have given Gunter trouble in the past. Very athletic on the outside teams that have big play capability have given Gunter trouble. When Canadians beaten Gunter, it's because they've had athletic playmakers on the outside. Wall last week, very athletic, very fast. They gave Gunter all kind of trouble. When they've lost in the state championship game to Newton and Franklin, Newton was very athletic. Woodville has that same kind of profile, so we'll see. I think this game's going to go one of two ways, Ward. I think it's either going to be a Gunter blowout or Woodville's going to pull the upset in a close one. I don't think there's any middle ground in this football game.
No close win for Woodville, or no blowout for Woodville. They're going to have to do it.
No, I don't think Woodville. Yeah. A Woodville blowout would be like Longview blowing out DeSoto. I would not see that coming.
We know that didn't happen. Oh, it did happen.
We'll see. That's why you never know.
You never do know. That's the best thing. All right, let's knock out some 2A stuff and call it a wrap. Stanford taking on Ganado, and I'm claiming Ganado now. We're down to 3 teams or 2 teams, so I'm gonna reach
Ganado
down.
In Jackson County? Is it Ganado?
Wherever it is, I'm reaching down and grabbing them. We've been with you the whole year, man. We've been with you. They haven't heard from me since last year's round. Exactly. Excuse me, but yes, there's another guy that we talk with a lot. Diggs is his name, and he gets on the soap dish about Malakoff being a Dallas team, and he even went down there, talked to their coach, said, "Coach, you consider yourself Dallas or North Texas or East Texas?" And he said, "Oh, I consider myself East Texas, of course, but I invite all the kind of coverage I can get." I said, "Well," and he was adding like that was his fuel to his argument. I was like, "Man, a team could be playing on the moon and say, hey, I consider myself a moon team, but I'll take any coverage. I'm still not covering them."
He told you how he felt. So
exactly. Let's relax. They're East Texas. But for our purposes, Ganado, and then last week they played a 4th place team in Yaquim, so we really couldn't tell much there. Talk to me about this game, because did you go see Stanford? Was that the team that was in their role?
Last week? I did.
What do you think about this matchup here?
So I think Ganado is a complete football team. That they were here last year in the semifinals. They got lost to Terry Bussey in Timpson. They got past that round this year. I love their quarterback, Bryce Altman. They're undefeated when he starts. The one game they lost, he was hurt. So they're unbeaten when he starts for them. They have a loaded senior class. They've been here. They've done that. They've been in the big stage and come out on top more often than not. Stanford has been the most dominant 2A team in Texas this year. They're 15-0. Their head coach, Wayne Hutchinson, is in his second stint at Stanford. He led them to 3 straight state championship game appearances between 2012 and 2014, where they won 2 of them. They had a guy play for them named James Washington, who spent some time in the NFL, former Oklahoma State receiver, is from Stanford. So they've had some pedigree. They've got some great athletes, Christian Duran, Caston Vega, Clay Whitfield. Really, the thing that pops out to me about Stanford is speed. They are a very fast team. They are very athletic. Before last week's 15-point win over Hamilton, they had not played a game closer than 22 points all year. They had beaten everybody by at least 3 touchdowns. Last week, they showed they could win a close game. They were only up 8 late in the game. They scored a touchdown with about a minute left to put the game away. This is a great matchup. These are the 2 best teams in 2A Division I, wire to wire. I think it's a fascinating game. I'm leaning in the preseason. I picked Ganado to win state. I'm switching it. I think Stanford wins. They've just been the more dominant.
With your pick.
They've been the more dominant team this year. So give me Stanford, the Bulldogs.
Well, hell, then I'll stick with your pick. Then if you ain't sticking with it, I'll stick with it. Ganado. We've been with you the whole year. That's who I'm picking.
We love you.
We've always loved you.
Ward, we need you to go to Ganado and film the parade.
There we go. The send off. Wednesday night we got Munster against Shiner. My man Neil Beasley would be down there. If you guys haven't seen Neil in a while, he's working for the Inside High School Sports brand now. He'll be there to catch out Munster and Shiner. And Munster's been playing lights out this year. They've been pretty dominant. Shiner's got the pedigree. Your thoughts on this one?
It's beer versus cheese, Wizzy. I don't know which one you're going to go with here.
Or sauerkraut. I go with the one that's got the sauerkraut out there.
Both of them have that. So, I think this is going to be a great matchup here. Munster's got 2 losses, but their 2 losses are to 3A teams in Pottsboro and Holiday. Holiday made the 4th round of the playoffs in 3A. Yeah. So this is a really good team. Kason Carney, the quarterback at Munster, is unbelievable. They've got great team speed. They're really athletic at all the skill spots. They're dynamic. Then you got Shiner. Here's a little fun story for you. We talked about North Crowley earlier, right?
Right.
The connection with North Crowley and Shiner is Ray Gates. North Crowley head coach Ray Gates is a Shiner alum. And he was coached by Shiner head coach Daniel Boddicker when he was an assistant coach. So Coach Gates told me he will be in the house Wednesday night after practice to come watch Shiner. He's got a couple of cousins that play for the team now as well. So interesting little tidbit there. And I think a lot of people from Shiner are hanging around to watch Coach Gates on Saturday night. Yeah. So a little interesting little tie-in there. Shiner is much more old school. They want to play in a box. They want to be physical. Carson Schutte, the quarterback, is a very good player. Quincy Jones, Jarvis Williams are a couple of dynamic playmakers at the skill spots for Shiner. But they're going to run old school Veer type offense at you. They're going to try to run right at you. I think their game plan is going to be control the ball, control the tempo, keep Munster's offense off the field. I think if they can do that, they got a chance to pull off what would be a slight upset. I think Munster comes into this game as a slight favorite, so I'm leaning towards the Hornets in this one.
Yeah, I think so as well. Hey, these guys both played on Thursday night, right? The week before?
Yes, they played on Thursday, yeah.
What are they? Would they have practiced on Sunday or no?
So the UIL does not allow practices on Sunday with one exception, this game.
If
you play the Wednesday night state championship game, the UIL gives you an exception to practice on Sunday. So both schools did have practice on Sunday to get ready for this game.
Excellent. Well, that's a wrap. And if you guys have not been to state, I know you say that you do this tweet all the time. If you haven't been to state, it's extremely enjoyable. You don't even have to, especially if you don't have a dog in the hunt, you don't have the highs and lows of the emotion. If you don't have a dog in the hunt, you can get 12 games where you don't really have to ride on every single play. Just enjoy good high school football, and it means something for every one of these communities. I think it's best when you're neutral like that because you can watch both sides of the crowds and see how much they're into it.
It's a bucket list sporting event. It really is. And I know, it's not close to Houston. A lot of folks, it's a drive. But if you have the means and can pull it off, even if you just go for one day to experience it is a lot of fun. You get football overload all day. 3, you get to watch. You pay $20 plus parking. I don't know what parking is, but to see 3 state championship games in comfortable climate controlled conditions, it's nothing better. So if you can pull it off, I highly encourage you to do it because it's a bucket list sporting event that's manageable and cheap. Getting a Super Bowl ticket ain't cheap. Getting a ticket to the Final Four ain't cheap. Anything like that is usually very expensive. I would say you could go from Houston to Dallas, and let's just say you do a down and back. But I mean, even if you get a hotel room, let's say you get a hotel room, you drive up, you spend the day at the stadium, you can probably do it for under $300.
Yeah. I think so.
And then if you take family, you may have to spend a little bit more for food and stuff. But it's an affordable for many people trip. So if you can pull it off, and I know not everyone has the means and they can't do it, and that's fine. You'll watch it on TV. But if you can do it, I would encourage you to give it a shot. It's a blast. It's a lot of fun.
And especially if you're a fan of Richmond Randle, Columbus, even Ganado this week, we want you out here support the Houston area teams. Stepp, this has been a blast. This is our last one of the year. I appreciate you jumping on. I know that Houston fans appreciate you giving the knowledge. The man knows everything about the entire state, and he decided to help us out this year and tell us about just the Houston area. I know a lot of people were smarter because you came on here, so I appreciate you joining us on this deal. Hopefully we can do it again next year.
Appreciate you having me, and appreciate the Houston fans putting up with me. I do live in DFW, but I definitely appreciate the quality of football and the quality of players and coaches and communities that are in the Houston area. And I try to get down there a few times a year to catch games. And so it's been a blast. So appreciate you having me.
Excellent. All right. We'll see you at state.
All right. We'll see you.
See you later.